Hi, I'm Rhonda Gaskins, broker Century 21 Lake Area Realty in the Lake Martin area. On average, our sales price are commanding a strong 96% of list price. Call me today and let me get started for you. 256-749-3644.
Hey, welcome into our matchup preview show. I'm Lizi Arbogast with Central Alabama Voice alongside Caleb Brooks, and I don't know what week we're in anymore, but I feel like we're like halfway through the season already.
Yeah, no, I mean it's crazy to think that we're already this far into the year, and this will be halfway through the year this week for a lot of teams that will have played 5 games at this point, and it seems like just yesterday it was week 1, and we were wondering how this year was going to go.
Yeah, I think you're definitely starting to kind of figure out who's going to win regions and things like who at least the contenders are. So another exciting slate of games this week, starting with Thursday night. Mountain Brook is versus Shades Valley. Mountain Brook is off to a really good start so far.
Yeah, a lot of people had a lot of high hopes for Mountain Brook coming down from 7A, especially coming from that region, and they get a Shades Valley team who the record doesn't really represent what kind of team that they have. I mean, they've played Pinson Valley, Clay Chalkful, and then Huffman to start the year, so 3 pretty good teams, and now they're going to get Mountain Brook here, who has pretty much dominated since they have now come down into 6A, and will look to keep doing that. And yeah, it's going to be a good matchup, though. I think that we're going to see Mountain Brook tested a little bit more than people think on the outside, and it's a really good Thursday night matchup for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. On Friday night, Maplesville takes on Loachapoka. Maplesville always seems to be a pretty strong team, and I think Loachapoka is on the rise clearly this year. Yeah,
Loachapoka, when I went down there and talked to them, they kind of seemed to think that their program's kind of heading in the right direction. They got new coach Rico Newton in charge down there, and he's been an assistant there for a while, and they really seem to like him. So I think it's a really good matchup here, and I think it's one that it's one to watch, because for Loachapoka, it's a chance for them to really make a statement and kind of show, hey, we are on the rise, and we're here to start winning games and being here consistently like we used to be.
It's going to be tough, though. I mean, Maplesville is always a really strong team. They
always got good athletes.
Yeah, they always are super athletic and pretty pphysical, especially for their size.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, Maplesville, especially for a couple of years there, they were dominating that classification. So, Maplesville is going to be a good challenge for Loachapoka, and I think it's going to be a good measuring stick for them. They lose to Billingsley to start off with and then bounce back and get a win. So we know Billingsley's pretty good as well. So they competed with them, and now they're going to get to really measure themselves here against a really good Maplesville team.
Moving on to Lafayette versus Lanett. This is always a fun game, right? Rivals. Now they're in the same region. Lafayette off to not a great start, but I don't think that that's necessarily indicative of the team that they have either, although Lanett, obviously, very tough test. I
mean, for Lafayette, you come out of the gates and play Randolph County and B.B. Comer. And we've seen B.B. Comer's a lot better than we're used to seeing this year, and then Randolph County's always good. So they hadn't played any slouches, and that's going to continue as they play Lanett this week. Their only loss is to 6A Valley. So the thing with this game is the Lafayette's 0-2, but they're going to be pretty good, and it's a rivalry game. This game's going to be close no matter what. There's going to be as many people as they'll possibly let in there at this place. So, it's going to be a fun one to watch, and there's going to be athletes all over the field.
Yeah. Dadeville takes on Childersburg. Both of these teams really needing a win. I think this game is probably going to kind of tell where these teams are at.
It's almost one of those games where you feel like if you lose, you're kind of out of playoff contention.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, that's really what it feels like. And, I got to see Dadeville on Friday night. They came out the gates well against Pike County. They go on a 7-minute drive to start the game, and then things just got out of hand. They got a young team, only 4 seniors.
Yeah.
So they're kind of at that point where they're, with new coach Roger McDonald, they're just building and trying to get better. And, they need a win big time. Childersburg gets a dominant win over Goshen. So we saw them struggle the first 2 weeks. They dominate this past week. So I think it's going to be a really, really good game here, and it's one of those where for Dadeville, for sure, it's a must-win game for them, because if they don't, their season could really start to snowball with the rest of their schedule they have.
Yeah, and I think with Dadeville, they've always had that snowball effect thing going on with them. They need to really, if you get down, that's okay. It just don't let it turn into 2 or 3 scores down.
Yeah.
Next up, Handley is versus Cleburne County. Both of these teams are 1-win teams at this point, although Handley, obviously having only played once.
Yeah, I mean, for Handley, it's been a weird season. They get the first 2 weeks were open, they play a game, then they were off again this past week, and so for them, it's only going to be game number 2, and they've just had a lot of practice and not a lot of game work, and when I went there, they felt really good about the team that they had this year. And so for Cleburne County, they just always have athletes. I mean, there's a lot of years they'll be 4-6, 5-5, but they're competing with teams, and teams always tell you, look, that Cleburne County game, that was one that was tough for us. So this is just one for Handley where, since you hadn't played as much, you got to come out the gates and really, really get off to a good start and not let Cleburne County feel like they're in the game and go out there and just play your game. For Handley, they should go out and dominate.
Yes, Helena is against Pelham. Interesting little matchup here. That region is sort of not necessarily what people thought it was going to be. Pelham coming off the huge win against Stanhope. Helena dominates Benjamin Russell. This game really could matter here in the end in terms of playoff rankings and things like that.
And on top of that, they hate each other.
On top of that,
they hate each other up there. They don't like each other, Helena and Pelham, and it's going to be a really fun game on Friday night. And like you said, I mean, it's one that with the way that the region's already starting to look. I mean, Helena's 1-1, Pelham's right there at 1-1, and now you got Stanhope at 1-1. So I mean, everybody's kind of beat each other, and so this is one that's going to have a lot of. It's really at the end could definitely determine who's hosting a playoff game and who's traveling for a playoff game in the 2 and 3 seed. So even if it's not for the region championship, it could have a lot to determine with that later on, which we know is super important.
Right, absolutely. Speaking of Benjamin Russell, the big loss to Helena last week, will host Wetumpka. After the play heard around the world, seemed like, with Wetumpka losing on that unbelievable. I'm kind of disappointed I didn't see. I've always wanted to see one of those plays live. If you haven't seen it, definitely go check it out. So Wetumpka obviously is gonna be bitter and mad, and they again already don't like Benjamin Russell.
Yeah, it's one of those things though. I'm gonna be really interested to see Friday night how Wetumpka comes out, because a loss like that could really affect you as the season goes on. You start talking about it at practice. It's what you think about all weekend, and you let that loss snowball
like Tom
into other
Brady's
losses.
talking about it. How
and then
are you not talking about it?
Exactly. And then you're going to have Benjamin Russell coming in desperate. I mean, they need a win big time, and so you're going to get them probably coming out playing hard. And then for you, you can't let last week's loss now affect you going forward here in region play. So I'm going to be really interested to see how Wetumpka comes off that loss, and if they come out flat, or if they come out with energy ready to kind of avenge that loss and get back rolling in region play.
Yeah, and like you said, I mean, Benjamin Russell obviously definitely in desperate need. I mean, if you pretty much lose this game, you're out. I don't know mathematically if you are, but pretty much you're almost
put them at
out.
3 region losses and only a 7-team region. So that would put them really, really behind the 8 ball. It may would put them mathematically out, but we know that they need a win just to even be able to really stay in it right now.
Absolutely. So. And our Central Alabama game day experience game, Hewitt-Trussville against Thompson. Really excited for this matchup. The number 3 team versus the number 1 team in 7A, and obviously both undefeated. This is probably not just the game of the week for us, but I'm sure for many people.
You're going to see better athletes in this game on Friday night than you'll see turning on the TV Saturday and watching. I mean, again, with some of the teams, you got Citadel, Clemson, some of them playing. I mean, you're going to see a better matchup here than what you're going to see with some of those college games, and both these teams are just filled with SEC, ACC, Big 12 talent all over the place, and it's one that this is going to determine that region. I mean, whoever wins this one is in the driver's seat going forward, now with Hoover and with Oak Mountain and all these teams that are undefeated. So it's the toughest region in 7A without a doubt, and this game is going to go a long way in determining who ends up winning that region, and really ultimately who ends up hosting the region, because whoever loses then still has to get Oak Mountain and Hoover eventually, along with Spain Park and Gadsden City and all these teams. So it's a huge matchup, and I'm looking forward to seeing how that one goes Friday for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. I think there's a lot on the line for a lot of different teams, whether they're just trying to keep their season alive or whether they're trying to potentially win a region championship. Obviously, a lot to look forward to.
Yeah, no doubt. And for some, just getting the season started, like we talked about with Handley. I mean, it's crazy that we're 5 weeks in right now, and there's one team that's 1-0 right now.
Yeah,
so
it's a weird season.
No doubt, but there's going to be a lot of good matchups this weekend, and if you're not going to any of them, NFHS Network's a great thing. I mean, it doesn't cost that much. Go get on it and go watch some games. It's going to be really, really fun this week.
Absolutely. So we appreciate you guys joining us again tonight, and we will see you next week.